everyone, and we're live. You're tuning to Cosmic Children. I'm your host, Kevin, and today I have a very fascinating individual in the studio with me. In preparation for this podcast, I found it difficult to actually describe or succinctly introduce this particular individual. Individual, could you please introduce yourself and describe what is it that you do?
Hi, I'm John. I guess you can say I'm an artist first and like a graphic designer by practice. And so I guess right now, since COVID happened, like I've just been freelancing more with another friend. We kind of set up like an agency called Steady Studio. And prior to that, I was at Zook. And prior to that, I was at Hypebeast, and before that was at Cherry. So quite a lot of like lifestyle, media entertainment sort of brands that I used to work with. Yeah, so I guess that's it. Yeah.
Fantastic. So let's start off with an easy question. What, in your opinion, or in your own words, is an artist? And why would you choose that particular description for yourself?
I think an artist is I guess someone that can kind of freely express himself in like whatever form, be it like for me it's definitely visual, but it's definitely about self-expression and kind of like being kind of like the captain of your own ship and kind of like doing your own thing rather than the commercial graphic designer who has to kind of answer to briefs and stuff like that. So I would say an artist is just someone who's themselves and just doing their own thing, I guess. Yeah.
Has that always been the goal in mind to be an artist, or did something change along the way?
I think everyone will want to be artists if like they don't have to worry about like their day-to-day overheads and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say it's like I want to be an artist. It's just I mean it's just a term like so you can better help like outsiders understand like what you do. But I think it's just kind of just being a person and just being able to express yourself. Like I think that is kind of like the baseline of what an artist does. Yeah.
I'm curious to know what how was the journey like through school and everything to get to this particular point? Like, did you go to school for this? Was it more self-taught? Like, what was it like?
So when I was young, I always felt like I had this like affinity to like just drawing. Yeah. So I guess it like 2D image making has always been like a really natural thing to me ever since like I was young. Like I can't even remember like when was the first time like someone introduced me to drawing or so I guess how I got to this point was so from the interest of drawing, I took art in school. I didn't really agree with the whole process of like grading art. And
even back then?
Yeah, I mean like art shouldn't be kind of like there shouldn't be like a point system for art. Like cause it's for yourself, right? It just so happened that like you are representing a school, you are like, you have to kind of do something that
there's certain standards to be met.
Yeah. There's certain like technical kind of things that you check, like boxes you need to check and stuff. And then from there, I went to poly and I did interactive media design. So that was more like website and stuff. Yeah. But back then at Temasek, we used to have like, it used to be like you got to do video, animation, and web design all in one.
Jesus.
Yeah. Then like I think only like 2 years after I left, then they kind of split up to be more like focused. Yeah. And then after that, I went to Melbourne for visual comm for my bachelor's. And then after that I went to I was in-house graphic designer at Figure for 1 year.
Oh, the shoe brand, yeah?
Yeah, just cause like I was back from Australia and then my friend was doing like marketing there.
Yeah.
So I just like he said like, oh, just come on. Then that's how that started. And then after that, I did like I freelanced by myself doing like mostly like lettering and like bit of like quote unquote sign painting. Like I really wasn't a sign painter, but like that was kind of like the start of like that the sign painting trend, I guess.
Okay.
If you
yeah
can put it that way. So I was doing a lot of like hand lettering, some notable ones for like Starbucks and did some for like a film set.
Yeah.
Just doing like their signboards and stuff. So I've always like this kind of feel of like just drawing things out and I guess in all like the different stages that I was in, there was just this aspect that I managed to kind of fuse together with like whether it's graphic design or like, you know, whatever it is, I will still be using my hands and the computer. Yeah.
What were some of your earliest memories with regards to art or something creative related? Was it introduced to you via like television, or was it introduced to you via like someone, like a family figure or something like that?
Not exactly. I guess probably my parents are like I used to like they're quite skilled with like replicating like, I don't know, Lion King or like Spider-Man. Like last time I would ask my mom, hey, can you draw Spider-Man for me?
Yeah.
And then it will be so cool. And then I'll also want to be like, so I guess they kind of like nurtured the whole
interest?
Yeah, the interest. Yeah, I guess you can say that. And then I guess the main teacher would be like the media that you consume. So your cartoons, your comics and stuff like that. It's kind of like, I mean, all of it has to have like really nice art. So I guess that's kind of like the aspiration and like the teacher. Yep.
Was it ever like you see something that you really like and you wanted to create something like that, or was it just more of like consumption? It's still in your mind for like future like inspiration and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like when I was young, like definitely it was all about like I wasn't so like, it was very direct, like in terms of like, say if I like Ninja Turtles, right, I would draw Ninja Turtles. It was a very like straight line kind of like process in which whereby you there's this thing that you're fascinated by and you kind of want to own it in some way. So you kind of like, you draw your own version, right?
Yeah.
And just by doing that, just even though it's like a 1-for-1 kind of like you're replicating an image that you're referencing, it's kind of like you're adding your own like touch to it and it becomes yours. So I guess that's something that I think a lot of people starting out like drawing would encounter, just like drawing your favorite like imagery and like things you like.
Yeah.
Just very straight line, kind of beeline to like, what do you like? Then Google the image and then, you know, just copy it or whatever. Yeah.
Was there a particular stage? Like you talked about the stages before, like, oh, so in recounting those things, was there a particular stage where it something or someone kind of said something, or you were introduced to some concepts that kind of shifted your perspective as to how to view art or even illustration or graphic design anyway?
I guess you're talking like not like any kind of like at any like period in time, right? Just like whatever whatever stage, right? Yep. I guess there are a lot of artists that are just really it looks like they're like they don't have that self-awareness in the sense whereby like they're not like self-editing their work, and they're just being very free and like, you know, they're being themselves. So I guess I look at all these artists and like I just see like how confident they are at expressing like their state of mind and how they feel, and like such artists are like, you know, there are lots of them out there and whenever I see something like that, whether it's on Instagram or whatever, like just individuals that are like that lack that self-awareness in a good way, just being very free. I'm always inspired by that, because I feel like there are two camps. So one camp is what I just described, and the other one is kind of like people who kind of like post-rationalize or over-intellectualize things. So it goes through a very like calculated kind of filter. And I feel like they're being true to themselves, but I feel like it's kind of like grass is greener on the other side. Like, because I'm more on the side whereby I'm trying very hard to like post-rationalize or kind of like put into words like what I do. But sometimes I'm really jealous when I see artists just create things just because, you know, like I find it very hard to kind of like come to terms with like a very rough drawing that I did. Like they'll just be like, I cannot accept it for what it is. Like I need something more. I need to like really like make sure that it's well considered. And I feel like that feels like a hindrance sometimes. Sorry, I lost your question. Like I went so far. Like I don't know if so you're saying like people that I admire, right? Like, or like people who have helped me along the way.
People or a particular artist that you look up to had a piece of work, anything that kind of shifted your perspective and made you look at it in a different way.
Yeah, so I would say no one particular artist, but yeah, just I'm really like jealous of artists that can just be so like freewheeling and just be able to like be themselves. Yeah, basically.
Do you think it's an illusion though? Because what you just described, unfortunately we all have pretty solid minds and we think, and it sounds to me like it's a human condition. It's not anything like to be what's the word for it? I think it just happens. So do you think it's an illusion, like to be so like the confidence and the bonus that particular artists might have? It's just because you're looking at it from this perspective.
Yeah. I totally get you. Like, I guess we only know what we know because we can't like,
unfortunately,
fit ourselves in another person's body and like see how the person thinks. Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's really these two dominant camps whereby, you know, you'll get you have like a Kanye and then you have a Virgil. So you have...
Describe them in your own words.
So I would say...
What are the two balances? Yeah.
So I would say Virgil is someone that needs to kind of rationalize his things, whereby Kanye goes by how he feels.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very... he doesn't feel the need to like have to explain himself or explain his work. Whereby I feel that Virgil is more of like... He needs to have like this post rationalization for what he does to kind of add that like extra layer to like that wit or that like so I just think that like they're just these two primary like camps. They're definitely like hybrids whereby but I feel like if you look out there and you just Instagram like your favorite artist and then you just kind of like follow their work and stuff, then you just see like, oh, which camp are they more like, do they sway more? Yeah.
It's interesting you use the two variables of Kanye and Virgil, because it sounds to me like just the primary forces of order and chaos. Like chaos is Kanye, the Virgil one is the order.
Yeah.
However you want to describe these two variables, because with order everything comes very structured. You need to have like a system flow chart, but with the chaos one, it's really whatever goes.
Yeah.
And the attributes of, let's say, boldness and confidence, and I guess something free flowing, I think those are sort of neutral. It can exist on both sides, and you can create the illusion for the chaos individual to have more order, and for the one with more order to have more chaos. And that's where I think people are tending to flow in between, like these two particular balancing things.
I guess it might seem like an illusion because we are I think it really needs like careful examination into like your subject, and to kind of like just recognize like patterns in like different people. So that's why to me and I guess also it's because like I'm also kind of into like personality studies and stuff like Myers-Briggs and things like that. So I understand that there are like just these two camps whereby one's more feeling based and one's more like thinking based. Yeah.
Where do you think you stand?
I definitely am more like thinking based. However, like sometimes I feel like there's a little bit of like I'm just like I'm so enamored by like, like I said earlier, like artists that, or like individuals that are just freely expressing themselves, like unfiltered and just being quote unquote real.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's definitely, I feel like it's definitely like grass is greener on the other side, but I think thinking a lot and like intellectualizing things to like all the way, it's also in a way like being real to that individual itself. But it's just, I guess it's just different people, I guess.
Have you ever thought about what giving up control like on the other side might feel like?
As in on the side that's like over intellectualizing things, or
no, the side where it's not intellectual. Yeah.
I don't know. I've yet to see someone. I guess like, I don't know, like what, Donald Trump? I don't know. Like people who have just like gone off the rails.
Because I suppose it's just one particular output that he is showcasing, really. Because I believe none of us have ever interacted with him. It's very difficult to tell the individuals from the different personas and the different like talking points they have around it, because it's very easy to just come off different just for different contexts. So I'm just curious to know if you've ever thought about what that, if we were to visualize like you're on one side of the scale, what the other side of the scale might feel like. Because I would imagine that's how people will use different substances to actually achieve that particular state of mind to actually feel that. Because if you're on this side, I mean, it's I feel that it's almost natural to wonder what the other side might feel like if you recognize and you admire and you see that particular trait in people that of works that you like. I think it's natural to just, what might that feel like? And let's say if drug A, drug B is kind of able to give you a sense of that, to lose that ego, to kind of like lose control. I think I can imagine why more people will be inclined to do it. So you since you have mentioned that you are, let's say, on the camp of over intellectualizing, what are some people on the other side that you kind of like their work, and why?
Well, I think someone like David Shrigley is
Who is that?
Is this like British artist?
Yep.
If you see his work, he's kind of like, I think it's very I think the telltale sign for someone who's really free is someone that's really just like working in like drafts, like one shot, like, and it's out there. You know, it's kind of just really like confident in themselves. So it's just natural that their work is like, it is what it is, kind of, you know, whereby, I mean, for me, like, as much as I like that, like, I'm going through tons of drafts. I'm trying to like get to this
mythical place where it's perfect.
yeah, you know. Yeah. And I feel like I'm trying to kind of reconcile with that kind of behavior and that kind of thought process. Yeah. So that's why I'm always like looking at artists that are just kind of like doing things that are really raw. So I guess, you know, it's kind of like why Picasso said like you kind of like something he said about like wanting to draw like a child. Because when you're a child, that's like the most kind of, you're not really caring about anything else other than you just want to draw what you want to draw.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's that state of mind, that state of consciousness whereby you're just free. Yeah. And to be liberated with all, you know, I feel like that's where you can really like not hold back and create like what's truly there for you to create. Yeah.
Curious to know, what's your relationship like with perfection? Healthy? Not healthy?
I feel like it's healthier as I grow older.
Okay.
Yeah, because you know that it's really like they say when you're younger, you know, you got to pick your battles and things like that.
Do they say that?
I don't know.
I've never heard that when I was younger.
Yeah, but you literally have like a certain like capacity, like a certain bandwidth, and you really cannot like make everything perfect. So it's really kind of like you need to see what's important to you and not let anyone else determine that, I guess. Yeah. And as you grow older, you kind of need to experience like many different situations for you to kind of have all that data, for you to kind of know how to like filter down to see like what's what, and to see where you should be putting your effort into. Yeah. So
it's more analytical ultimately.
Like for me, like, yeah, that's the only way I can think about it, because I'm sure like for other people it might come like quite naturally. But for me, I kind of have to be really like conscious of like my actions and kind of like see, oh, you know, like I only got so much time this week, so I'm gonna like, this chunk is for this chunk's for that.
It's just good time management. It's a great habit.
yeah, but yeah, I guess you can say that.
I hope it's not adult exclusive.
No, definitely not. I'm sure anyone can do this. It's just I think for me it's kind of like time's not real, like when I was younger. So it's like everything needs to be kind of like how I envisioned it. If not, like I'm not gonna close that file. So, but sometimes it's kind of like you need to see how your work is gonna look like, how it's gonna live in this world like after you have done it.
Yep.
And once you've seen enough of your work out there, like once it's done, then you realize like what matters and what doesn't matter. Yeah, because then you realize like, hey, this is something that no one would see, or like it's only important to you. It's kind of like an OCD in a way, whereby yeah. So yeah.
But doing work that matters to you in a wholly self-indulgent way is kind of a symptom of what you just described about being totally bold about putting stuff out there, isn't it?
Doing stuff that
it's totally self-indulgent to you. Like, it only matters to you and not, I guess, whatever you want to put out.
Yeah.
Like, it only matters to you. You feel strongly for this. You spend however amount of time you want on it when you put it out there, regardless of whether people see it, regardless of whether people like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be a symptom of the grass is greener, like being on the other side, being like super quote unquote confident and bold about what you create.
Mm-hmm.
It could be.
Yeah. I guess so.
So I'm curious to know, did your studies and your training to be like a graphic designer, did it affect the way you create art? Because from my perspective of a graphic designer, it's always solving a problem. There is always a need, and you come in, do your magic, and the problem is solved, full stop, go to the next one. But I guess for art, it's a bit more process driven. It's a bit slower. Like, to me, the idea of art, or to create art, is a slower process. Sometimes there might not be a need for it. You just have this innate desire to create, and that's it. So do you think your training as a graphic designer, like, you need to have that particular headspace to switch? Sometimes the clients don't have all day. Sometimes the clients don't have the time to give you to solve it. Like, there's a bit of urgency. That do you think it has affected or adversely affected the way you create art?
I think I guess it's helped and not helped at the same time. Like, doing things for others is always kind of like, you always realize, like, you always have like a priority list, and you always have to have your client in mind. You have to also be very aware of your timeline and things like that. So there are certain like aspects that definitely help when you create your own things. Because when you create your own things, you also need like a certain level of discipline, which I feel like just having some sort of like a structured environment, or like something that's commercial based, because there's a time limit on it, would help you
push you in the right direction. Hopefully.
For sure. Yeah. But on the flip side, the negative side, I guess, would be what would the negative side be? I guess everything feels like it's become like a point-based kind of system, whereby it feels like there is a good or not good kind of end result.
Yep.
And you don't want to be in that headspace when you're doing your own work. I feel like it's kind of like passing any sort of judgment on your work. It shouldn't be the case, because if I didn't have this mindset, then I would just create.
Yeah.
It would just be like one after the other. So I wouldn't, like, the past wouldn't affect me, and like what I'm going to create next is just going to be what it is, and I'm going to move on and things like that. So that's kind of like something that I realized later that I'm trying to put into like commercial work, whereby, in whatever like parameters that I have, whatever variables I have, I would just do the best, and then I'll move on to the next thing, and not worry about, like, obviously it needs to pass so that you can collect that check, but but I try not to like have this like grading system at the back of my head, whether is this an A for the client or not. Like, I'm just trying to, like, whether is it good or not, it's kind of like I want it to be so like internally processed that I don't even like realize it anymore. It's kind of like you're just having a meal and then it's the next meal, and then it's the next thing.
Yep.
It's just something that you have to do. You have to tie your shoelaces, you have to get out the door. It's just a long process that you've just got to do many of, and then it's just kind of it just goes by, Yeah, so I'm trying to kind of like just adopt that mentality and kind of like unlearn this sort of like perception of what's good and what's not good. Yeah, it's just kind of what it is, and you're just moving it along, and you just at the end of the day you just want to do as much as possible. Yeah, and then you just let the body of work like whatever it is for other people to say. Yeah, not for the person in the driver's seat to kind of like figure out like, what it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think unlearning is a very interesting word to consider, because I think it's becoming increasingly more common that people realize that there are actually things you should unlearn. Like not everything that you hear, because the mind's a very good net in a way that it traps whatever you hear, whatever people tell you, like everything. And it's very good sometimes to take a step back and to consider like, hey, is this particular train of thought or is this particular framework, is it good for me? If it's not good for me, you better spend some time to unlearn it, because it will adversely affect either consciously or subconsciously how you view the world.
Yes, I feel that like and like I don't think you can, hopefully it's not too late when you realize there are certain things that you need to reconsider, or you need to think about why you are thinking a certain way. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things that you kind of experience in life that you don't think much of, and then it kind of like accumulates, and it's just you don't really understand, and like you haven't really processed like why you think a certain way. It's not just for art, it's just in general, like everything in life. Yeah.
Curious to know, do you subscribe to any type of philosophies? Is it something that of interest you're in? Yeah.
Philosophies. I don't know. I guess I do. I mean, there are probably a lot of like things that I live by. Nothing that I can like specifically like point out.
Yeah.
But I guess I feel like it's important for me, and I think for everyone, to kind of like do things for themselves, kind of like have their own work, because it's quite, I guess it's quite an uncommon thing, especially like in our parents' generation, whereby you're kind of like part of like the system, right? Whereby you're just like this battery, and then you're just there to service like the larger machine. But I feel that like if you don't like do something for yourself, whether is it like art or like, I don't know, just whatever that
interests you,
shapes your identity, then I feel you just be like lost. You just kind of at some point, whether you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you just realize like you have that like existential like crossroad whereby you're just wondering like the meaning of things, and like
it's a traditional midlife crisis.
yeah. So I think it's important to kind of like start doing things for yourself, because in that way, through that process, you kind of like understand yourself, because there's no way you can do things for yourself without trying to figure out like yourself at the same time. Like, it's just part of the whole process of like of doing that.
I think it's two different challenges, one of which the most important challenge really is to figure out yourself.
Yeah. I feel like this generation, like the...
You sound like an old you, dude.
Well, yeah. But I mean, like, you see a lot of TV, and you see a lot of like, the teen genre, right? The coming of age genre. You see like the Gen Z portrayal. It's like, it's so different from like the teen portrayal like maybe 10 years ago. It's just changed so much. And I feel like because of the generosity of the previous generation, it's given us time for us to like process like bigger concerns, whether is it your own identity or whether is it like any sort of like crisis that's happening. Like everything is being like shared and like put on the table to talk about and things. So there's a lot of like self-discovery and like it's just been like a more enlightening process, I feel, for like the next generation that's coming up. And I'm sure it will keep going because like as we like advance and progress, like life is not going to be not going to be as hard as like the previous generation, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I feel like I would keep going on these tangents. Then I keep forgetting what's your like base question, but I hope like
I love tangents.
yeah, I keep forgetting what's the question, but hopefully I've answered it.
No, it's cool because I think it's interesting that you will say that, because I think technology exists to only go one direction. I don't think good technology, adopted technology, will only go one direction, and it seems as though the pace would compound upon itself faster and faster. And I think the question of which the next generation or the current generation, they do have things easier to a certain degree, but I think I will also say that they are, I think, tasked or even faced with a different set of challenges. So going back to what you said about, I would agree that the parents' generation, they have a different challenge, because let's say we talk about locally, we're in Singapore, and I would say that a lot of individuals from that time, because of how information is so slow, and it's probably like from one or two really main sources, I think their view of the world is not as vast. Thankfully, we have the internet, or we were the generation that kind of saw the birth of the internet and saw it. Okay, not saw the birth of the internet, but saw the internet being widely adopted. I think it's two different things, and thankfully we're savvy enough to access the internet, because I personally feel that one of the biggest like really saddening points these days is to see how people of the older generation, they are not in tune with the internet at all. That is pretty sad, because you can imagine if the internet was present during their time, things would be different. Like how it was during us and how it is like with the next generation. But they're also faced with different challenges. Like the security is there, they can see, but it's like they're faced with increasingly more, I guess, how would I say it? Human challenges. Like I think the question right now is with regards to the use of social media. How pervasive is it? How private are things usually are? I mean, you don't really have to consider last time like your information being spread online or spread in the newspaper, because if you haven't done anything, you're basically like you're not known. But right now, I think because of how the internet remembers things and how easy it is to track or even to research something or someone, I think that is quite a primary concern moving forward. Like how there are trains of thoughts and there are challenges that are on the cusp, and it's always constantly going to come up. But whether we are wise enough to tackle them or whether we are quick enough to find solutions to them, I think that's a different story. I feel that parenting is going to be fucking difficult.
Parenting?
As time goes.
Okay.
Yeah, because like how our parents back then used to tell us not to game too much, but you'll find a way, you'll log in, you'll meet strangers, and you'll talk to them like your own friends. I think right now it's exemplified with the way you can communicate to people across the globe, and you can meet basically strangers. And I feel like our brains are trying to keep up. Because the brain takes ages to evolve. Well, we're not used to having so much, I feel. So it's like from like the 2010s onwards, I think it's gonna be a interesting experiment. It has been a very interesting experiment, because think about it this way, like they released like the social media thing, and it's good. It has its plus points, like you get information so much, but now we're saying, hey, maybe it's not that good. But then you have like 3 generations of people like being affected by it. the real ramifications will only manifest years down the road. It's like, sorry, okay, move on. It's like, okay, interesting.
But yeah, I'm definitely curious about like how it'll look like in like 40, 50 years time, like when social media and like how we experience social media to kind of be like really normalized, because I feel now it's still very pervasive in a sense how it affects us on a daily basis. If you are on social media a lot, I feel like it can be quite it definitely is harmful to a certain extent. Yeah, as much good as it has, it is definitely like has its negative sides. And but I still feel that like when something is this good and this it connects so many people, right, and creates such a big community, I feel like there's definitely more upside to like downside, and I just can't wait to see how it's gonna evolve such that it becomes as normalized as like the newspaper, like just very, very kind of like we are like way more evolved to kind of be affected by what goes on. Like we'll just read it like literally like it's news. Like it's just I can't wait for that.
What type of science fiction scenario do you subscribe to? Do you subscribe to the Ready Player ones? Do you subscribe to the Gibson Neuromancer? Do you subscribe to the more dystopic kind, the 1984s and the Brave New Worlds?
I feel like the closest one would probably be Her.
Okay.
That kind of future feels quite tangible.
Could you describe that, because I'm not too familiar with that?
Her?
Yeah.
It's the one with Joaquin Phoenix. Spike Jonze directed it. So it's very how can I describe it?
How do you make it feel?
There are a lot of. It's a bit depressing.
Fantastic.
It's quite depressing. Like everyone's, I guess they haven't really managed social media well, and like it's become, it's gotten to a point whereby like social interactions are handled by AI, and you kind of, I guess you're kind of lonely a lot.
Okay.
Isolated a lot.
Yeah.
I think definitely there'll be like people like that.
It sounds like today.
Yeah, I guess it does. Yeah, that's why it's kind of like that's why it feels so tangible. I think. Yeah, I don't know. Like at the same time, so as much as I see like I can envision this kind of isolation, I also feel like the next generations have been more, they embrace kind of like outdoor stuff more than like my generation for some reason. Like
the pendulum swings back, basically.
Like because of this overdose, like we just know how to like self-heal and to realize that, you need to kind of like be offline. You need to go on hikes or go on bike trips and stuff. So it's kind of like whether we consciously do it or not, it's just, I guess human beings will kind of figure things out. Yeah.
I think one of the most interesting observations I've noticed about let's say people, let's say 20 or younger, like the next generations we're talking about, it's like they are very quick to recognize that these are just tools, because it's kind of like the only thing they grew up with. They didn't grow up with, let's say, mailboxes or like dial-up. Like we grew up with that, and we were present on the fact that there was the analog years and now there's the digital years. But they grew up only knowing this, and it's only going to go one way. So I think that could perhaps describe as to why they recognize that those are just tools to perhaps to promote yourself, perhaps to garner get an audience, get a following for particular career reasons, but ultimately it's just tools.
Yes,
and yet I would agree, like the pendulum seems to be swinging the other way, where they are more conscious about like humanistic efforts, like the environment and stuff like that, most of which flew past, I think, people from our generation.
yeah. Is it because we were just really like smitten by like the onset of all this like new technology that, you know, we kind of just wanted to hang out more on, like, I don't know, last time it was more Facebook, right? More. Yeah, for some reason I can't even, like, I don't remember any of my friends saying like, hey, let's go for a hiking trip like on the weekend. Like going for nature walks and stuff, and like all this like overall like wellness has just been, I don't think it's gonna be, I think it's here to stay. Like I don't think it's just a fad. Like I think there are a lot of like offline things that are like, because online is just so saturated, they're just like this balancing act that's happening with like offline activities. And like, yeah, there are just so many things to do that like I didn't realize you could do in Singapore.
Definitely. I think I think to your point, I think there weren't any let's go hiking, but I think there were a lot more offline activities, I would say, like soccer, the sports basically. Because I think those were more available back then. Yeah. But I think for our generation, it's more of the fascination with, you could just log into, let's say, Diablo, and you can play with your friends, and you go to the LAN shop, you can just sing like 5 hours in there. I think there was that initial fascination. I think when WoW came up, I think that was where a lot of the interest came in, because you can go online, you can play with your friends, if you have a good enough internet and stuff like that, and you can play with people overseas. I think that was more of the novel concept in the early 2000s when it first came up. Yeah. And I think after a while, things will change, because the common paradigm for people like in your 20s and you're doing that, it's like, yes, you can do that, but what's next? People just tend to think, what comes after this? And then I think that kind of describes how people pull back. People want to experience more of the offline one, and that's where, let's go, I don't know, like go to the beach, go hiking and stuff like that. So I think hopefully things will equalize.
I think it would. Yeah, for at least like a certain amount of people, it would, I feel. Yeah.
Are you conscious about your habits with regards to consumption, meaning consumption of, let's say, media, being online for X number of hours and stuff? Are you conscious of that, or?
I try to be.
Usually when people start with "I try to be," it's usually not a good sign.
Like Instagram's always telling me that like my daily limit is up.
Okay, hopefully not within like the first 3 hours.
So I usually set it for like 15 minutes.
Okay.
So like try to use it for 15 minutes and then like time's up. So you'll always send me a reminder.
Yep.
But like I try not to go on it, especially like before I sleep and things like that. But I think I'm handling it okay. Yeah, I think when I'm in a good place, when I feel like I'm at my most like creative sort of mindset, I would forget to check my phone, and that's the state that I'm always aiming for, like
the elusive flow state.
Not exactly a flow state, but like I'm just excited, and like last time when I used to drink coffee, it's like when you drink coffee, you know that like 10 minutes after you drink your coffee, you just get like excited about like possibilities. Yeah, that's kind of like the kind of mindset that I want to capture. I just look forward to more moments like that, and yeah.
It sounds like you just described a very good coffee ad, dude. 10 minutes after I drink my coffee, I feel excited.
Yeah, because it's like... Yeah, because... Yeah, I just like recently told you that I stop drinking coffee. So like I'm just trying to recount it, and it's just so romantic, like whole feeling
It's
of
so
like,
vibrant.
especially on like that Saturday morning whereby like, you know, the day is free and you just need like a wake me up and just to get on with the day, and like that coffee in the morning. And then you're just like fucking excited to like get on with the day, you know, that I really miss it. Like I'm kind of like 3 to 4 weeks off caffeine now. So yeah, I'm just trying to get that back, that feeling of like just being excited to like do stuff. Yeah.
Speaking of this excitement to create, as of right now, is there a particular headspace or mindset that you feel that you will want to start creating? Yeah. Or what is the ideal headspace? Yeah.
Ideal headspace.
Yeah. Like do you have a certain ritual, like you have to set, I don't know, your pens a certain way, or you play a certain music? What was it like?
I think it's not so much of like the physical stuff. Although I think like if I really were to like change up my desk setup, I think it would help. It would be like inspiring. Yeah, okay. But like right now I think it's okay. It's quite minimal. But in terms of ritual, I think to get there, to be in that right like headspace, I would need to kind of have that that nice level of stress whereby it's not like you have nothing on your calendar to do, but at the same time it's just manageable, you know. You kind of like, you're just working very hard, like maybe 4 to 5 hours a day doing like things that are not yours. Then the other hours, you know, you feel like, oh, you deserve those other hours to like do your own shit. So I think like that kind of balance would be really good. And like if the commercial stuff cannot be so like, doesn't cause such a big burden in terms of like, you know, sometimes you have like a lot of future deadlines, so there's all these things looming, then you kind of like you have all this like dread to do it.
It's like a weight.
Yeah, so that's not so good lah, I guess. And yeah, I realized that it's when you don't exactly have all the time to do your own things that makes the time there, when you get to do your own things, like more it becomes more conducive to do it, because you feel like, you know, you gotta be nice to that time that you have to create stuff. So I guess
paradoxical.
Yeah. I can't imagine being like totally free and like doing my own things. Although like I guess I can kind of visualize it. It might be kind of nice, but it's just getting used to it when like, you know, you have reached that kind of financial freedom whereby you can be very selective with your jobs, and then outside of that you can do your own thing. I think that would be like, I mean, every artist's like ideal scenario, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So going back to what we initially talked about, identity. Of course, yeah. Going back, he's drinking a beer. Okay. Going back to what you initially talked about, identity and knowing yourself. I'm just curious to know, would you say that your art does this for you? It helps you discover yourself? Part 2 of the question is, what has your art taught you about yourself?
It's definitely like trying to not be too critical over like what I'm doing, and to, you know, like what I was saying is to like kind of like just be creating things and to be kind of going on to the next thing, and not be too like critical whether is it good or bad. Like there's no grading system. It's only about like doing the next thing and doing the next thing, and so on and so forth. So sorry, what was the question?
Does your art help you discover things about yourself?
Or discover things about myself.
What has it taught you about yourself?
Discover about myself, probably, but I'm trying to think. About myself.
Or it informs your identity, yeah.
I think it brings me closer, like as of now, it brings me closer to my interest points and things that like that I feel joy in creating. So I'm not trying to be too over analytical about it. I'm just trying to be stuck in the process of like actively doing things. Yeah, so I'm trying to just, I don't think it's really taught me one thing, but I'm just trying to make sure that everything I do, there's some kind of joy in it. Yeah, and not figure out like, oh, what does that joy accumulate to at the end of the day? Like, what's the big picture? Like, I don't think I have that kind of foresight. But like, I definitely feel like if you're not doing something because you have some sort of satisfaction or joy, then you need to kind of like reassess that at the end of the day. So for me right now, I think like I'm kind of on track, I guess. Like I'm always doing things that like I'm interested in, and if not, I try to stop doing those things. And then figure out like what's this pattern of like my interest and why am I doing it? Like at the end of the day, kind of like not really, it shouldn't be spotlighted. It should just be like something you reflect on when you're like in the shower and stuff, you know.
Taking a dump.
Yeah.
Did it take a while for you to get to this particular state of, I would say, equilibrium? Like it's quite a balance right now. So did it take a while for you to get to this particular stage? Did anything you hear or watch, did it inform like this particular mindset you have right now?
I think probably like we are definitely like a accumulation of like many different like experiences. I can't point to anything specifically, but it's just all these lived experiences, and like I think for me a lot of I consume quite a lot of film. So if anything, that probably like helps my mind like wander and to kind of like reflect and things like that. Yeah.
I want to talk about the art that you create. So I'm curious to know what are some of the influences specifically like is contributing to your art? What are you thinking about? Because what are you thinking about behind the stuff that you create? So like I feel like I've gone through like different phases, and like I feel like the common thing about like when I'm creating stuff is I realize like I cannot do too much of like the same thing. Like I feel like I need to move on, like, or I feel like it's been like I'm repeating myself in some way. What do you mean the same thing?
Whether is it style or like subject matter, things that I'm drawing, like because I'm trying, I think too hard about like what I want to draw.
Sure.
And I feel like I think that's many people's kind of like encounter when you know you're always figuring out what should I draw.
Fair.
You know, but so I'm just trying to not like overthink it, and to just like really draw things that interest me. Yeah. So interest needs to be there for me to sustain that X amount of hours that I'm going to be putting into the work. So it's like I try to think about like whether this could sustain me doing, like if I need to put 2 hours into this, or I need to put a few days into this, is it going to be sustainable? Is it like interesting enough for me to invest that time?
Yep.
Or is it just going to be like abandoned like halfway? So like that's the only thing that I try to actively like think about. Other than that is like I try to trust my intuition more. Yeah, as I grew older, I feel like trusting your intuition is like the most important thing, because if you are like art trained, it feels it feels like you're always answering to someone, whether it's your teachers or like after you graduate, your clients. So it feels like there are like this gatekeepers in a way whereby like, sorry, my mind is wandering. I think it's the beer, but the beer is also helping. It's keeping me loose.
That they're influencing or informing your art, even though years down the road that they're not there anymore.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, I just feel like the more I create, the more it helps me regain my own agency in my work, and I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned or that helped me. Like doing more of your own things just naturally gives you more agency over your own things, and it builds on your intuition, like your confidence.
Yep.
Every single thing lah. Basically, just do things for yourself, and like just good things will follow if you don't like be too harsh on yourself. Yeah,
it sounds almost like a meditative practice because it goes beyond just I am doing an illustration, because it seems as though, and it sounds as though that you are, I think, more in tune with what you personally want, and not as you mentioned, like people that the baggage of like voices and anything that you have collected along the what they want, actually what you want. And I think it forms what we talked about earlier about the identity, like who is John, basically. Yes. Ultimately that question, which people might argue is really like the only question that is worth asking, like who is X, who is the individual. All the other questions kind of pale in comparison to that, because I think once you are cognizant really of the fact that who you are, I think it gives you your own agency. I think the word is agency ultimately to go and pursue what you want.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they don't teach that in school.
Yes.
It's something that you have to, I don't know, you find out.
Yeah, you kind of have to like realize it in a very like Doctor Strange kind of like, you're in that temple kind of, you just kind of have to just be by yourself to kind of like know these things. Yeah, it's funny. It's because like we are in this like whole we're just like schools and all are just meant to like make you into like batteries to be part of a system, and like because of that everything needs to be graded, and you need to be like a such and such battery so that you'll fit that mold. And because of that we kind of lose our identity, because we are like we're just trying to like fit the brief, like yeah.
It's a very good way of looking at it. Yeah, we're just trying to fit the brief even back in school.
Yeah, you're just kind of like, before you know who you are, you have to fit this other person's like criteria and whatsoever. Yeah, so I think that's really harmful. Like hopefully, I mean, everything that you can learn, I feel like you don't need to go to school for. And school should really just like embrace like individuals, and to kind of like build on like their identity and things like that, which sadly it's not going to be the case, especially in Singapore. I think everything's going to be graded, everything's it's just so like 0 and 1,
I would agree. And I think if you ask me this particular question about, I guess, the education system in Singapore, I would give you a different answer maybe years ago. But I feel that in thinking about I think my own education, I think it is ultimately beneficial, but it is also important to recognize that it's not the end all be all.
Yes.
First of all, it is just a tool in your arsenal. And I think it also informs me of the perspective, like, okay, it has taught me how to memorize things. It has taught me how to regurgitate things.
Yeah.
But in considering what is lacking, at least I know what I like. And when you're cognizant of the fact that you know what you like, it is up to the word of the day, agency, for you to go and pursue it. Yeah. So I guess in thinking about it in that way, it is helpful. But the problem is that they just package it to you wholesale and they don't inform you, or maybe it's the parents' jobs or the individual's job. You can pass the buck around, but ultimately I think it's up to the individual to figure out. It is ultimately still a journey. It is ultimately still a task really to just be cognizant of the fact that whatever you have learned in school, is it helpful? Is it not helpful? That's entirely debatable.
Yeah.
But it's also important to realize that it is just one step out of the flight of stairs that you have to climb
for sure.
At the end point to figure out who you are. And then that's where really the journey begins.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's very true.
So you talked about films being something that you consume quite regularly. Is there a particular reason why the medium of film entices you as compared to, let's say, music or like other things?
I think it's the most appetizing kind of thing that you can consume in like it's just long enough for you to like sustain that interest, and as well as for you to like learn something from, for you to like get your mind like working in like 2 hours. I feel like it's a pretty good, although like 90 minutes is the ideal length for a film. That's my preference. But like to convey like all those ideas, like you get everything from film. You see, you get music, you get like art, you get like all sorts of like visual like
stimulus.
Yeah, stimulus. Like it's just great. And then there's like an overall like the spine of it. It's like, you know, the screenwriting and everything. So the story and like, yeah, it's an all-in-one kind of like it's an all-in-one kind of like goodie that you don't really, there's nothing else you can compare it to. Like there's nothing that services that same need. I feel like listening to music is kind of like, I would listen to music when I do my work or like when I'm traveling, but I wish I could like just sit down and just listen to music. Yeah, but I've never had that inclination. It just wasn't like natural to me. Yeah.
What are some films that you've watched more than once?
Stuff by the Coen brothers. And I really love The Matrix for sure.
All three of them?
No, just the first one.
Okay, I just wanted to check because there's been a lot of talk about, I think, the second and the third one.
Yeah, okay. The first one is still a banger. Yeah.
At what age did you watch that? Or first watch that?
I would like to think that I watched it in cinema.
You would like to think that? You can't remember?
Yeah, I can't remember. Like, I was like, what, 14 years old?
Yeah. But did it hit differently like when you rewatched it at a later age?
For sure. I think I watch it at least once every year.
Wow.
It's still fun. Like, okay, so I've like certain genres that I like a lot. Like sci-fi is definitely one of them. Coming of age, thriller, mystery. Generally like things in these 4 boxes I would they just have like this, like I'll just definitely have a bias towards it. It's just those rides that I want to take, you know. When you go to a theme park, you know, you want to hit that specific rides because like you know what you're gonna get. Yeah, so those for sure. And definitely when I was younger, like I really loved Toy Story a lot. Like I just love that franchise. Like I'm really amazed that like they managed to okay. I actually think that like it's amazing how they capped it off at 3. I thought 4 was going to be bad, but then 4 was actually like okay. It was okay.
Is it okay slapping leaning towards bad or okay leaning towards good?
Actually, everything by Pixar hasn't been really like, there's nothing that's been like terrible.
Okay.
Like
nothing atrocious basically.
Yeah. Do you have any like things that you hate from Pixar?
Not off the top of my head, really. I actually don't watch a lot of films. I watch in recent times more analysis of films.
Oh.
I'll read the Wikipedia.
Okay.
Let's say if there is a particular film I like or I'm interested in, I won't watch it. I'll just read or just watch a couple of video essays of the analysis of it and a different symbology, and I'll just I will log whatever that is and then I'll move on.
But then you'll get like all the spoilers and everything before actually watching it.
So I'm more interested in the information. So I'll watch let's say Hereditary. Okay, Hereditary.
Oh man, you didn't watch it. You watched the essay.
I'll watch the different essays of it. I'll watch the director's interview. I'll watch everything around it except the film.
Why? Is it because like you're afraid to commit for that 2 hours, or?
I think I used to think that, but I listen to podcasts and different things for like 3 to 4 hours. So it's definitely not that, but I think I'm more interested in the thought into it. I'm more interested in the thoughts after it, but I'm not that interested in the product now.
Right.
So I'll listen to, as I said, all the peripheral things around it. Yeah. I'll spend a lot of time there. I'll think about it. I'll look at what he has done before. But I won't watch the product.
Right. Okay. That's fascinating. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So you're just trying to find like, you just want to get to the crux of like a lot of things in general, right? Like
that's one way to look at it. I'm more interested in the mind map as to how he let's say if there's a scenario he introduces, what are the different branching things, and he will go there. That I'm just interested to see that, and then the post analysis is how people were to take that and to interpret it. Yeah, because you could watch a video essay which is like 30 minutes long, and you go to the next one, and the guy would have a different interpretation.
Yes,
whether or not, and this is where the pre-video essays or the director's cut and whatever, when he talks about it, I think that's where it differs. So you just see I'm more interested in seeing how the director thinks, or the guy who's in charge of the story, and what were the steps he took to tell the story. Because yes, the visuals are amazing and everything plays a part, but that's where the video essay covers it. And if you cover the initial storyline, that's basically the whole film. You see the whole skeleton, the skeleton and the nervous system, really. Yeah.
Okay.
Because everything else, yes, it's a very nice package, but everything else is just there. I like to see what goes on behind. Yeah.
Can you remember what's the most recent like video essay and like interview that you have seen that you can remember?
I watched so I'm not that into film per se. I'm more into games. So I recently watched I think I watched a video essay on Genshin Impact. I don't know if you know that game. It's a highly controversial game because it has similar looks to Zelda, like Breath of the Wild, another franchise, and it has gacha elements to it. Basically, you pay real money for in-game currency to unlock different things. So I watched like a video essay about a guy. Initially, he was very put off by it because I'm sure you realize games used to be you pay one time and you get the product and you play it for however you want. But right now, I think 20 years later, things are games. How games are monetized is very different. Yeah, like they can give you the game for free, but they release like loot boxes for you to get skins and stuff like that, and it's very divisive. So I watched a video essay on that, but the conclusion was that he's fine with it. Yeah. Okay. And I watched another video essay on Cyberpunk. That was like 4 hours. Oh my god!
You watched it all?
Yeah, I watched it all because it's interesting how and through that I encountered he walked through the whole story. He talked about the bugs. He talked about the different storylines and how it doesn't make sense and stuff like that.
Wow. Yeah. So you don't play the game?
If I'm interested after, I'll play the game. So I watched. So there's a game called Sekiro. By From Software. So I watched people playing through it. I watched the lore and the story, and then I think after 2 years when it's on sale, I picked it up and played it.
I think you sound like you're really cautious about like how you want to like invest your time.
Not exactly. I think if it's interesting to me, then I will want to actually buy it. put time to play it, because I would agree that it's different to actually experience it, and it's so you could satisfy two perspectives. You could satisfy the more analytical side and the more, let's say if you're creative, you want to create something like that. Why did they choose a monk with a centipede, and a centipede, what does it mean because Sekiro is set in ancient Japan, so what does centipede mean, like the symbology is more analytical, but I think when you play it, I think that's more, you get to experience the sound and the soundtrack and what the developers want you to experience there. I think it's different. So I would agree that some things can only be experienced, and satisfy a certain part of you, and when you take the more analytical approach, it satisfies another part of you.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've only wanted to know like for Walking Dead. Like I just wanted to, if there's like a quick video kind of like tell me what happens, like
there is a lot.
Like that's the only, cause like I can imagine like watching video essays for like, or like kind of recaps for like TV series where it's just too long. But I mean like film is kind of like the best, like it's just a nice and like nice enough like 2 hour slot whereby you don't have, it's not too long. I feel like I used to love games, but I feel like there's no end to it. Like you don't know how long is your time commitment for a game, and that gives me a lot of anxiety when I'm playing it. Cause then like I'll be like, oh, I'm 9 hours in. How long have I spent? How long do I need to spend? How long is this process? Like it's gonna last for, and then all that feelings will just rob me of like the enjoyment of playing the game. So that's why I need something like when I'm consuming something that's like I need to be really passive, and I need it to be like really constrained, 2 hours and then I'm in, I'm out.
I mean, I say all that, but I do watch the Marvel films, and when I do, let's say, watch stuff in the cinema, I just keep it as that.
Okay. I've only like just recently like started like this whole rewatching things. So it's just a weird behavior to me. Like last time, like I always thought like you watch already, why you want to watch again? But I realized like there are just certain things that are just so good. And then there's also this like after 3 to 4 years, you kind of like don't really remember exactly what happened in the show.
Fair.
So it becomes fresh again. Like, it's just such a joy to like, films are really a huge joy for me. Like the best thing, you can have it on a daily basis.
You can like, watch it like 2 times speed. You can watch multiple.
It's just something nice to kind of like close off your day. For me.
Is there something you watched recently that surprised you?
Surprised me? Not really. I cannot really remember anything that's really like awesome that I've seen lately. There's been a lot of like 2.5 star stuff that I've watched recently.
Like your personal critique, it's 2.5, or is it?
Yeah, because like I've just been like quite diligently like logging the shows that I've watched on Letterboxd.
Oh, you're like Dion, oh my god. Jeez.
We kind of follow each other.
Fuck.
Yeah, so I've just gotten into this habit of kind of like just seeing like what I've watched and then what I rewatched and just whether I liked it or not.
Do you let's say if you like a particular director, do you make it an effort to consume what he has done?
So that's how I actually get. So I'm weird in a way whereby I cannot just put anything on to watch.
Fair.
Like it needs to be like whether I feel like in a very like sci-fi mood or like a very 90s mood or 80s mood or like a mystery mood or like a specific director or specific actor. So most of the time if I watch like, I don't know, something by this actor and I really like his performance, then I'll watch the next show that he did. Yeah, so that's how I usually find like the next thing to watch for like, But
would that mean that there will be a bit of like hesitancy to watch something new?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of wasted time going into like surfing for like picking out the show. Like, I feel like I waste a lot of time doing that. Yeah, and I'm still trying to build a system whereby like I kind of like plan out what I want to watch, or like kind of categorize things into like, if I'm feeling like this, there's these options. If I'm feeling like that, it's these options. I'm still trying to get into that. But I haven't yet, because I've just been like, I've got a bunch of shows It's just sometimes it's too late. Like when it gets into like the 9-10 o'clock, then I know that
to wind down.
Yeah, so I've got like either TV shows to watch or like movies to watch. So most of the time, if it gets a bit late, then I know I just have to like watch a few episodes of whatever,
Are you a big source material buff? What I mean by that is, like, let's say The Walking Dead, for example. Mm-hmm. There is the TV adaptation and there is the comic book. So let's say for the films you've watched, do you go back and find out what's the original source material and you read through like what were some of the original intents of it?
Oh, I wouldn't do that, and I haven't done that. The only time where I go back to source material is probably like for Japanese animations, whereby like maybe the series stopped at a certain point and hasn't finished the entire thing. But that was last time. Now I kind of just, if it's for anime, I just try to go straight to the manga, because it's really like condensed. There's no like fat, and you can really like you can flip through it as quickly as you want. Yeah.
I think manga is super underrated.
Yeah.
Fucking underrated.
Yeah.
It's like like when you realize a lot of the novel concepts in Western films, like some of them they just lifted straight from the manga.
Yeah.
That's come out like 2 decades ago. It's like,
yes.
Yo, what the fuck? Why isn't there more people like looking into this particular, and the type of like I think from a visual perspective, brilliant. Like some of them, like I think Blame is pretty brilliant. Like the landscape and the immersion that the artists or the mangaka and the techniques they use, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And if you think about them coming up on like with this, let's say on a weekly or a monthly basis, that is even more ridiculous.
Yeah, I feel like that's a bit. That's a really unhealthy kind of.
Super unhealthy.
And the reason why I feel like I've kind of given up a bit on manga also as of like late is because I realized like you need, there's like it follows a certain like formula, and they really don't like you need to kind of sustain your audience. So that means your first few chapters or whatever, or you cannot have any lapse whereby you're going off and like you're trying to like build character or whatever. You always need to have it always follow a certain like flow.
Yep.
And that's why I feel like, especially for like shonen manga, they're just constantly trying to reuse like a formula.
Tropes.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, it's a bit sad. Like I've been trying to get into manga like again, but I always like quickly lose interest.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate because as quote unquote progressive of, I don't know, futuristic as Japan might be in some ways, I think the publishing sector is still pretty lagging behind because they are I guess tied down to the monthly magazine, the Shonen Jump. Yeah. And if you don't, I think they have a very weird ranking system as to how many people buy the volumes. Yes, it's consumption habit and stuff like that. But if not a lot of people buy it, then they will just exit. They'll just cut it halfway and they give you like, oh, you have like X number of chapters left to wrap it up. Yeah. And I think it results in a very weird type of publishing ecosystem, and it results in very, very terrible like work environments. Like you hear of like mangakas like they do it for X number of years and then they just burn out. Yeah. And then the story just cuts there. Even though it may be like one of the most brilliant, they just stop there. They don't want to touch it anymore because it's ridiculous. Like the working conditions of this particular industry that has, I guess, inspired and is like raking in so much money. Like if you look at the conditions for that, it's horrible. Yeah. Hopefully in the future they would stand to benefit in a more I think, independent. I think there's a lot of like, I think what has been popping off in recent years, I think it's like the Korean and the Chinese like manhwa.
Yeah. I've yet to get into that. I've got a lot of friends who like say that they have a lot of like good stories, especially like Tower of God or something like that. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, it got adapted into, I think it was published online. Same way like the Shonen Jump published the manga, and it got adapted into an anime. Same with, I think, Sweet Home. Sweet Home was the one that came out in 2018, like a Korean manhwa.
Yeah,
it was ongoing. I think recently just got adapted by Netflix as well. Yeah,
do you happen to know if like there are any like, I'm sure there are like independent like creators who are not like part of Shonen Jump that are successful, right? Like,
actually, nothing comes to mind.
Okay.
Like, nothing really comes to mind because I think the publishing ecosystem in Japan is a lot different from how it is in the West and stuff like that. I'm sure there has to be. If not, it's very sad.
Yeah,
like the only means of publishing is through this
magazine,
Shonen Jump. Yeah,
because it feels like a very like dated kind of way to like circulate like manga, right? Because with internet, you can literally just publish online. You can be your own publisher, and you can have viewership. And if you're popular, like companies will come to you.
Definitely,
like, you definitely don't need to like follow this like strict kind of like turnover rate that they have at Shonen Jump, which is not healthy lah. Like only successful mangakas get to like work at their own pace, like the guy who did Slam Dunk. Yeah, but yeah, for him, he's like, he worked on this samurai one, the
Vagabond.
Yeah, Vagabond.
So I was just thinking about Vagabond just now. Yeah.
He did it halfway, and then like, he's gonna chill on that. Then now he's back to real, which was like, so he's been like juggling this. So I guess if you give an artist so much agency, he will also tend to kind of be a bit more chill.
Yeah,
but I guess that's okay, right? I mean, like, it's the artist's work, right?
I think as long as the artist is in favorable working conditions, and they're not stressing out.
Yeah, these dudes are like 40, 50 years old. Yep. Like, how can they be like working in such kind of like strenuous environments? It's crazy.
Like the mangaka industry is bad. I think the anime industry is just as worse.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. It's like, I hope to see the day where he would finish Vagabond. Yeah, Vagabond it's a very interesting series.
Yeah, do you keep up with it? Or?
I like to go bargain hunting on Carousel. Oh, okay. And I think I chanced upon some dude selling like the complete volume, like the whole set.
Yeah.
So I just snapped it up. I read it. It's incredible. Like the art inside is incredible. The way he because it's a static medium after all. So the way he simulates, I think, atmosphere and the kinetic movements of the fight and the way everything is all like framed, I think it's perfect because it's about Miyamoto Musashi. I think the legend and how he like the process and how he grew up basically to become like so iconic. So it's not just about the fighting. I mean, the fighting's amazing, but it's also about his mindset and his philosophy, and I think how he came to eventually write the Book of Five Rings and stuff like that. But it stopped at a place where I think it was on his way and it's all like in hiatus. And let's say if he passes, I think it's like, that's it. Yeah. So even though you can go to the Wikipedia and you can read everything that is quite closely related, I think there's a certain magic to it where this particular individual like has like the way he feeds his information through, and the pictures that come out of it is amazing. You feel like you're actually there, like watching them like do battle and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's just amazing.
Yeah, he's a master of like action scenes. I feel like how he creates like tension in his panels and all. It's really amazing. Yeah,
I see that in your work that there is a lot of inspiration from culture. is it intentional, or what drives these particular inspirations to come up? Because I think some of them, I think I saw like the iconic scene of Woody and Buzz with the rocket.
Okay.
And amongst other things. So is there a particular intention as to why culture is so at the forefront of your art? Like, it's immediately recognizable as to what is there and stuff like that.
I guess they are very like, they help convey my emotions the best. I think that's why I always use these motifs, because I feel like whatever I'm feeling, like there is some sort of like reference point in culture that I can use to say how I feel. And these things are like they are just these notes that I would incorporate in like my artwork. So it just helps me express like the larger feeling that I have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, it feels very like instinctual to like tap onto all those like iconic like stuff. Yeah.
Do you have is there a certain recipe, or is there a certain way that you will find all these things, like in your creative process? What does it look like?
How I would find it? Most of the time it's like something that I've experienced. So it's always like, I'm trying not to overthink the process. So I'm always trying to like make sure that my hands are busy doing something. So if like, you know, there are just certain images that like you are just that you gravitate to like create. So I guess I'm just trying to like let things flow that way and just kind of follow. And from one point, like I wouldn't see the big picture, but from one point it will just lead to something else, and then like there'll be something else that comes from there. So it's kind of like everything is kind of like rhyming off each other. So at the end of the day, you just see one large like poem, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Did it surprise you that there's a certain sense of consistency with regards to, I guess, the characters that are prevalent in the illustrations that you do?
Consistency as in like I reuse certain...
Yeah, there is a certain character that keeps appearing.
Right.
I think initially, I think even up to now that you can, if someone has been following your work for a bit, that there's a certain one or two characters that keep coming up.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying not to be too focused on like creating a style or like to kind of have like a signature to things. But I feel like I'm trying to let things happen naturally, and if I do repeat myself, like hopefully like it's not too similar to the last thing. Like I hope like I'm putting it in like, I'm still trying to like say things in a different way, like just trying to reframe, even though like I might be sampling like things that are similar in some ways. Yeah.
Interesting. You mentioned initially in this conversation about, I think, working at various lifestyle businesses before. Is that of particular interest to you? Like, I guess the culture and the lifestyle side of things. Like, has that always been an area of fascination to you? What has your experience been with it?
I think when I was younger, it's definitely like, I mean, these industries are definitely like cooler than like, say, I don't know, working at like something that's too corporate. Yeah. And it's just definitely like the output, like in terms of like what you create, will definitely be more lighthearted and more fun. And it's kind of, I think there's a bit of overlap in terms of like my own sensibility to things. Like I wouldn't do things that are too strict or too corporate, So I like to collage a lot. I like to riff on things. I like to reference. I like to sample a lot of like stuff from culture.
Would you be able to define what does too corporate mean?
I guess for clients that are more that are not like clients that you got to do annual reports for, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, definitely those kind of clients that are the stuff that you don't see on all your studios portfolio. For sure they are doing a lot of things whereby it's more bread and butter.
Sure.
Yeah. It's like from the different places that I've been, I realized it's always nicer to find a brand that you like and to kind of service that brand only, be like an in-house, rather than to be a vagabond and kind of service different clients, and you never know what you're going to get, and you never it's very one night stand It's every single, you're not going to develop a long-term relationship with one brand. And most of the time, when a client signs off on that, you don't know how is it going to turn out. How is he going to manage the thing that you have given him?
Yep.
So yeah, that's what I realized. What's enjoyable, definitely it's just that I get to create more quote unquote fun stuff rather than things that are too strict. Yeah.
So would you say today you're no longer working at these I guess institutions of culture and stuff like that? Would you say that you are outside of it, or are you still actively involved in elements of culture? Are you still interested in the same things? Yeah.
For sure. I mean, if there are opportunities that come again, hopefully I'll get to be in it. But I don't know. I feel like I'm getting too old. Maybe.
Fair.
I feel like there's a new generation that needs to do these things, a new perspective on things. And right now I'm kind of like my day job's kind of just paying the rent, and then my after hours are kind of for me, and I'm just trying to do more things for myself. Yeah, and just be very in tune with the process and be very accepting of the process and stuff like that. Yeah.
Do you think because I believe you have done collaborations with, I think Only before. So do you think that being able to collaborate and to work on products with I think brands that are heavily involved in culture, let's say streetwear brands and stuff like that, do you think they present a different type of energy as compared to, I think, working with a cafe or something like that? Do you think they have a different I think what I have right now is starting point. They have a very different vibe to what is actually possible.
I think it depends it depends on the client, depends on the project.
Okay.
Yeah, I think everything is quite unique in itself, the challenges that it poses and things like that. So yeah, it no two projects that I've done are that similar, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So ultimately it still depends on the variables of the project.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was there a recent collaboration that you did that you enjoyed?
Collaboration. Not really. Nothing that I can remember specifically. Yeah, I feel like a lot of collaborations, even with the time where I was in Hypebeast, the collaborations aren't as collaborative as you think.
Fair.
A lot of times it's kind of you're just doing it by yourself and then you're just passing it along.
Fair.
Yeah. So I haven't really got to collaborate with anyone that's really like like wow, like awesome time that we spent together. No.
But is this something that let's say for the art side of things, is this something that you are looking to do perhaps in the future, or do you solely want it to be like an individual practice?
I think I'm open to anything, but I just wanna, I guess, yeah, I'm kind of open to anything, and yeah, I'm not averse to like working with anyone, but I definitely would be more selective if it if it's concerning like my own work and not like my commercial work. So I'll definitely be like I wouldn't want to work with someone that has like different values.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically when it comes to my own work, because I wouldn't want to compromise on that. Yeah.
So having been in the industry for a bit, do you think, or do you have an opinion on whether the commerciality of things, do they affect a certain part of the artistic vision?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there definitely like I feel like the vision for things usually comes with like a certain kind of perspective on like the commercial value of it. So it's kind of one in the same, if you ask me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You cannot do things that are too crazy, that are not feasible, that that are not commercially viable. It just won't fly. Yeah.
Unless you're a Kanye.
Yes, unless you're Kanye. Yeah.
So you need that level of trust and I guess a certain amount of chaos to kind of command that, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Interesting. So what is you mentioned initially, what is Steady Studio?
So we are like a branding agency, I guess you would call that. But it's just the two of us, and we're just we've just been taking on like a lot of smaller projects and things like that, like since last year when COVID hit. So we've just been like doing some small things here and there. Some branding, some social media stuff like that. Yeah.
Why the decision to step out and do Steady? What was the impetus for it?
It was actually my friend's kind of like persistence in it. I just wanted to chill. Yeah. I just wanted to do my own thing for a bit actually, and then he kind of asked me whether we should do this, and I kind of like just went along and yeah, we just been doing it for.
Is it like more of the same for you, or do you like look? Do you like? Are you able to do different things?
I think more of the same.
Okay.
Yeah, still a lot of like graphic design, art direction, some creative direction. Yeah.
Do you think that the appetite of which the client wants something creative, do you think that that's changing? Because it's funny you mentioned annual reports just now, because I've seen some really artistic annual reports, and it seems that there is an inclination, I think, for the client to present those things in that way.
Yep.
So I'm just curious to know, like, based on your experience in, I guess, the more graphic design side of things, like, is there like a shift in how I think the clients are more willing to try something more artistic?
I think there are definitely clients that they're open to suggestions rather than to be too conservative. I guess I think every client's kind of different. Yeah, fair. To me, like I haven't met a client that's too conservative or too strict. I don't think they would look for us. Yeah.
So I guess right now you are kind of wearing different hats. You have the artistic practice and you have the studio. And you have to be like the business owner of the studio as well. Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that's that's it. Yeah. That's enough.
Is there ever an interest to direct your own films?
I've thought about writing.
Script writing.
Yeah, script writing. Doing just doing like the outline and stuff for film. And yeah, that's definitely something I would like to pursue like when I have more time. Okay. Yeah. I think there like creative outlets, there are like just so many that we can explore. Like everyone can just do a lot of different things. If like you have your foundation set, there's a lot of things you can do if you collaborate with like different people. Yeah. What
are these foundations that you speak of? What do you think would be important for, let's say, a creative to have today? We're talking about foundations, right? So what do you think is important?
I think just certain sensibilities, I guess. Like there are just certain like technical sensibilities as well as like a certain like level of understanding of who you are as a creative. Then I feel like that's a good enough like starting point. Yeah.
So we talked about certain foundational skills that might be beneficial for like a younger creative today. Do you think it is important for, let's say, a younger creative to just perhaps work in the professional industry for a bit just to get a hang of things before perhaps deciding what they want to do? Because I think it's usually like a question like, oh, I just graduated from school, like, do I go straight freelancing because there's a lot of tools and it seems like a viable career solution, or perhaps should I just join an agency and figure it out that way? So what is your thought to that? Perhaps you could share some perspective on it, because it seems like you're doing both. You set up your own business to do like a lot more corporate stuff, but in a way you are doing a lot of the art as well. It's like freelancing, it's like both sides. Yeah.
So the question is whether like we should be working like.
Do you think it's important to gain perhaps not just the skills of designing, but what are some other like intangible skills that were important? We talked about discipline. How does one learn discipline?
Yeah, I definitely think that like you can learn more on the job rather than like going to school. So like, I mean, if I can like set the curriculum, I would definitely do like one semester like studying, then like one semester like internship, and like keep doing that like for 3 years. So you really get like a sense of like the industry, and like school is only there for you to kind of like it's just there as a safe space to kind of like help you along, and it's not really there to like grade you or anything. And then you pick up like the real like industry skills while like you are in that company. Yeah, I feel like that would be the most beneficial. I felt like, I mean, I had internship for like, how long is internship? Like
usually
3 months?
3 to 6, sometimes 6 months. Usually about 3 to 6 months.
I feel like that's way too short. That could be, you could have one internship every year actually.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Like, why not? Like, it's not like they're making you do anything like super important. You know, you're kind of like just there to like be part of the process and to like assist, right? So like, I definitely think that it's beneficial to be like acclimated as soon as possible. Yeah.
I think it's interesting to consider why something like that might not be, I guess, wholly practical in the sense of an education system is because I think Singapore has a, how would I say it? You're constantly on the express lane. It's like let's say you finish primary, you go to secondary. You finish secondary, you go to tertiary. If you don't finish, then you do until you finish, but you finish, you go to work or you go NS. That always seems to be like only one track. But I feel like hopefully with discussions around how I guess people learn at different paces, I think it's so important to factor in that, hey, it's actually fine to just take a year out. Let's say you finish studying or let's say you dropped out, take a year out to figure out, oh, do I intern? Can I intern for like 6 months for two different companies and just to learn from that? I feel that there is a lot of things to unlearn from the Singapore education system. Like learning doesn't just occur in the classroom. Like whatever lingo, whatever like tagline they have, it's actually true. Like you don't just learn, but you actually have to learn outside of the classroom as well. Like in the job, when you go for internship, you have to make and squeeze really the maximum amount of like learning you can do. And learning doesn't just mean that you learn from the boss or whatever, or your peers. You have to learn how you function and how you work really, because I think that isn't really spoken about. I mean, you have templates, you have how people are successful, let's say on Instagram, like being a freelancer, but I think a lot of the conversation can be had and will be had, I think in the future, is about how, what are the stages to get to that? And is it applicable for different people? Because some people function very well in the working environment and they end their work at 6, they don't touch it. But some people, they have the capacity to just spread it all across the day and they are able to create more. So I think ultimately, going back to our initial topic, really it's about finding out what works best for you. And I think I think the pace of Singapore is not many people can afford that, or even are aware, or we can take like a breather, like 6 months out to just chill and figure things out. Yeah.
I think that's definitely like a privilege to be able to do that.
But it's so important. I think it's very, very important to take time out to figure out what you might want at that particular point in time, because it's also important to recognize that hopefully like you will change. Like what you want, let's say 5 to 10 years ago might be different from what you want now, because unfortunately time progresses one way. So you can only change with how time changes as well. Yeah. So bridging off from that, I'm just curious to know, like when you look at the art that you create over time, let's say over a testing period of let's say 5 years, has it changed in your eyes, or has it to you remained consistent? I'm just curious to know the evolution of your art.
Yeah, I think it definitely has changed. In terms of, I think a lot of inner workings, like my thought processes and stuff like that, and like it's definitely like I've always been like, I think the through line has always been like expressing myself, expressing my thoughts, trying to get to the crux of like how I'm feeling. And I've always just used these drawings and 2D images to kind of express that. And I think if there's any sort of evolution, it's just an evolution in like how I am, I guess. Yeah, I don't think it will be so obvious to anyone outside of myself. But I don't really like look back and like see every piece and kind of like do a breakdown and stuff. But I feel like I've always tried to like just be up to date with how I feel. Yeah, and always like try to be as honest as I can and output it with as little kind of like latency, or just try to be give like the purest kind of output each time. That's always been the goal. Yeah.
do you think that is achievable, or do you think that that's something that, as of right now, that would be the goal to actually get to?
Yeah, I think that's the moon that you are pointing to, right? And it doesn't matter if you actually reach it, but like if you're in that direction, if you are in the right direction, I think that it is perfectly fine dying without reaching the moon.
Or you'll follow like the star, and will get you to a certain place, and you realize, okay,
yeah,
maybe there's a different star to follow. And I think that's where, and if you were to back out and look, perhaps 20 years later, that's how the cataloging of the artistic journey is, isn't it? It keeps changing, and you see the different stages.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely more of like moving in the right direction than being at that specific destination that you have in your head. Yeah, I think it's a lot about that. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a lot of misery if you constantly fixate on that end goal and like where you're supposed to be, instead of like where you want to go and like what you're doing right now.
It sounds like it is as important it is to have goals, it's also important to not be so deterministic about them.
Yeah.
Because reality isn't deterministic. Reality is pretty fucking chaotic.
Yeah, it's super fluid, and you just got to embrace that like fluidity. Yeah.
So in closing, I have two more questions for you. I think one of which is, to me, one of the more recent happenings that shook, I guess the creative community at large, which is NFTs and I guess the crypto space in general. Aside from the general frothiness of the market and the valuation and stuff like that, does the concept of NFTs and the concept of, let's say, I own these NFTs and I stake my claim saying that I own this particular image, does it interest you or does it disinterest you as a creator?
So I think that NFTs serve the creator first and foremost, because who cares about like who owns it? I feel like if the person who owns it feels like really great about it, then like more power to him. I think that NFTs serve the artist the most because you empower the artist by, kind of like creating this like direct route to giving him money for his piece of work. And every time it's sold, you get a cut from it.
That's a ridiculous mechanism, to be honest. Yeah, when I first found out, I was like, yo, this is the missing piece.
Yeah. And if this like general idea, like people are like willing to accept that like ownership of a non-physical product is actually worth something, then that's a whole paradigm shift in terms of like, we don't need to be spending money to like create like a product. We can just do things quickly, create art really quickly and skip the whole production phase of it. And then you can kind of support this artist immediately, because the artist just needs to create that thing and there's value in it, and you feed the artist. I feel like that just that idea alone, like that's definitely like worth a lot lah. Like it's definitely in the artist's favor. Rather, it serves the artist first, and anything that serves the artist first, I'm like there for it. Yeah.
So what have you observed about the particular NFT or like crypto space that is of excitement to you? Like any particular projects or any particular, let's say, like ideas that you've come across that is that's pretty interesting.
Actually, I've been a bit like, I haven't been like super hip to like the recent news of like what's out there, but yeah, I just generally like the whole concept of selling art that is digital. like people are like, if the person screenshot your artwork, then isn't that like kind of owning the artwork? But like, it's strange how like our mentality, like the bias mentality is kind of like, if I have an official kind of like statement that I own this piece of like digital megabyte, like I'm like, I own it. So like it really like reframes the whole idea of ownership. And yeah, I think that's the main takeaway and the main thing that I am quite like optimistic about.
It's interesting to consider that to consider the discussions around it, because some, let's say, speaking from purely creators' point of view, I think some of them, some creators might be really against it, some might be really for it. But if you consider, like what you said, the idea of what ownership means and stuff like that in the digital space, it feels as though, like if you think back about how people were to adopt the internet, I think there's a lot of comparisons to that, because it is also a digital space, so basically an invisible space, but you can do a lot of things on it. And yes, it seems as though like it is that the introduction of tech, and whether one, I guess, embraces it or walks away from it, I think that will really be the type of conversations to have, I think, 2 to 3 years down the road, because a lot of the tech right now is still in its infancy. It is used only for a handful of means amongst certain individuals. But I think the real litmus test of this is when it gets widely adopted. Because if you were to consider, if you were to build a city from scratch today, if you were to build a country, you will adopt the tech. But it's because a lot of the countries we have systems dating, I think, years and years ago. They didn't have the internet to conceive. But if you were to build a country from scratch today, you will use the system because it has so much accountability and you can track everything. Everything's public. Yeah. So it will be certainly interesting to see how developments and adoption of this particular piece of technology, which is the blockchain technology, how it gives, how it inspires creators, really. Because I've seen some very interesting distribution of not just the art itself, but I guess the concept. Like you can really monetize the concept. Yes, the art is equally as important. You get the product, but I think a lot of the most successful projects I've seen is like, it's like the monetization of the concept. Because you talked about in traditional times, you need to have the product, you need to have someone touching something, which is like the production of it. But right now you can just monetize the concept of it. And the art is secondary. Yes, you get the JPEG and stuff like that, but the more successful projects I've seen is like the artist is able to get people into like the stream of thought they have. But I guess if you were to consider the steps leading up to it, let's say like Patreon and stuff like that, perhaps there's always been pushing this direction. Like how Patreon, it's kind of like the idea, like if you have like 10,000 followers, you get $1 from each, you get 10K. Yeah, but Patreon really did it. And I've seen like really, really like successful artists or like creators, really. Like there's this D&D creator I follow. He's called Arcadum. So he has a really successful Patreon. And what he does is he just creates D&D worlds. I will interlink, let's say, so he does a lot on Twitch. And he streams them, and let's say YouTube, and then he will create like campaigns and people can play it. Then he will link all these different characters together. And he's able to do that as his full-time job. And there are people like really like supporting him. It's more like he's the top creator, then he has he runs like a server where like people are, how would I say it? They're like managers, really. They are like he comes up with the campaigns, and then it comes down, and these managers, they run different campaigns as well. It's fucking ridiculous. Like what is actually like possible. What is actually possible? It's not just Illustrator, you illustrate. But right now there seems to be like a merging of like different skills, really.
I think it's always good to have like people who like are like on the opposite side of like they want to kind of have that whole maintain that whole integrity of like doing things the old way. What
do you mean by that?
Like people who still believe in like creating product and stuff. Like you always have like the traditionalists and the old guards who just want to like make sure that like traditions are kept. And it's a good like push-pull kind of like, it's just like the introduction of ebooks, right? Like at the end of the day, it's just about like balancing it.
Yep.
Yeah. And I feel like both sides are necessary, and like it will just kind of like streamline, as it's just like what like Netflix is doing to movies, right? Like just, and stuff like after COVID, like what's really important to be seen in cinema that will be like only specific projects will be made for cinema.
Yep.
And like everything else is going to be for streaming.
Yep.
So like I feel like just like the course of like evolution in like all these different sectors are just, we will just be able to like figure out what's the best way forward. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a lot of development, to be honest. Like,
yeah, a lot of development.
Yeah. It's like a story that's being written, but you've read to that page already. What is next? Like nobody knows.
Yeah,
because nobody can really predict how this technology is going to develop. Nobody really knows like what is the next new tech that's gonna come and I guess disrupt everything. I think before, let's say like Airbnb and Uber came out, people thought it was like kind of strange that you go to someone's house to stay, but when the adoption comes for those tech, it's like, oh, it's almost natural now. Like go down, take an Uber to somewhere. Yeah.
But the great thing now is that like the gatekeepers are everyone, because like the power is kind of decentralized.
Yep.
And everyone's kind of like their own kind of like boss, and
Yep.
they get to like be. It's not kind of, you cannot kind of manipulate the system. Like someone in power cannot be the one that monopolizes everything anymore. And I guess that's seeing that we are at the starting point of this whole decentralizing of everything, right? It just feels just generally hopeful, because no one person is in like, full power of like full control of like anything anymore. Yeah. And everything is democratized to a sense whereby only things which are good will carry on.
Top. Yep.
Yeah. Like there are no more like curated boy bands. Everything has to be like, you have to be really like your hits everyone has to like you on SoundCloud or YouTube for you to rise up. It's going to be on the backs of like the general populace for you to like, for someone to be good. It cannot be like scripted or curated anymore, which is the way it should be.
There's like no quote unquote formulas. Even though you might be able to analyze a formula, but I think the market chooses ultimately, and
correct.
They are so fast to move on to the next trend that by the time you script together whatever, they might have moved on to like two different trends already, and it's difficult to catch.
Yeah.
In closing, I just have this question for you. It took me a long time to realize that your Instagram handle, it means work in peace. I've thought it was work in progress for the longest time.
Actually, when I first put it was work in progress.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just I kind of like played around with like what WIP could mean.
Sure.
So I did like many different iterations of it just as a rhyming kind of like senseless kind of like thing, and then just work in peace just sounds right.
So to bridge up from that thought, I just want to close off with this particular question. Like, what does peace mean to you?
I guess freedom.
Freedom.
Yeah, freedom to be unbothered by the outside world. Yeah, that's ultimately like I think what everyone is striving for, to have that like sense of like inner peace. Yeah, in their lives. Yeah.
Fantastic. Is there anything else you would like to talk about before we end this conversation?
Anything else? Not really. I think we covered everything.
We did. We drank a lot of beer as well. Okay.
It was a good session.
In closing, where can people find your work? Where can people find you online?
Just on Instagram, I guess. John_WIP. Yeah, can find me there.
Like same handles throughout.
Yeah, I don't have any other. Okay, I'm on Reddit, but it's kind of like the same things I post on Instagram. I have Twitter, but I kind of there's not much really going on.
What about your secret film critique account?
Letterbox as well, John_WIP. But I mean, I'm just logging films for myself and like now and then just trying to jot down my thoughts. Yeah, I'm trying to be more articulate in terms of like how I think. I feel like I've always been pretty averse to like words, and like I feel like words are very jarring, especially to me because I don't like wield it really well, especially when it's in written form. So I think that's the reason why like I communicate mainly in pictures. Yeah. So but I feel like words are closer to the thoughts that you have in your head, and it's important to kind of like organize those thoughts, and the best way to do it is through words. So I'm trying to use words as much as I can nowadays. Yeah,
that's fair. All right. Thank you, John, for your time. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode and feel inspired. If you enjoyed what you heard thus far, do give us a follow on Instagram. And don't forget to share and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next episode.